Good afternoon. How are you? Well, the heat has returned, and I'm annoyed that there isn't a public open swimming pool to go to because it was so nice this past summer to feel the warmth while you're swimming in such cool water in the daylight. But that's the way it is. The Thomas Jefferson weather report says it's 87 degrees right now. The humidity's 29. That's not bad, 29%. And the wind is a breezy 3.5 miles an hour. There's a whole range of issues we could talk about. And to make a brief connection to the present, I would say that as a kid, although it wasn't when the decision came down I was aware of it, I was too young, but Brown against Board of Education was an important decision. It kicked to the side of the road the notion from Plessy against Ferguson that separate was equal. This is an interesting case because they used a paper bag in Louisiana to determine whether one had to sit in the back of the car or not. And if you've ever been down there, the cemetery is an interesting place to visit. So that was Plessy against Ferguson. Brown against Board of Education said separate ain't equal, and it's more extensive than that. But the thing that strikes me as a young man and now as an older man who knows something about the law is the language in the decision that the ruling had to be put in effect with all deliberate speed. So years and years passed for it to happen. Now, in law school, I was always surprised by other students who were less interested in politics, but who thought that we were dealing with a non-political body, the Supreme Court. And I was always of the view that it was political, but it moved slowly and too deliberately sometimes. And so it was political. Now, flashing forward to the present, the court has become a real multi-dimensional chess game. But unlike chess, the rules change and waver. So, for example, the courts, federal courts nationwide, are divided between the lower courts, and not all of them, who are making decisions that track the Constitution and the law, and the Supreme Court of the United States, which in emergency proceedings overrules this to favor Trump. And that's not the end of it. It's more complicated. The Supreme Court, within itself, divided by 6-3, is split, and the 6, I think, would do jumping jacks if the president asked them to do it. Now, for example, Associate Justice Barrett has just written a book, and she's out there on the stump talking about it. And she was quoted a couple of days ago saying, her politics and religion don't affect how she rules on a case. Bullshit. Absolutely not. She made the statement she did during similar statements during her confirmation hearings. Her religion doesn't matter? Come on. Look at that opinion. They think we're dumb, I guess, that we can't read and we can't think. And if we're silent, for those who fear retribution or vengeance from these wrong-headed people that would impose their religion on the rest of the world without regard for really what's going on with a woman's body, unwanted pregnancies, crimes, and everything around the sexual act, trying to handle women by constraining them. That's what this court did. That's what Barrett did. So the Dizzy Six think it's okay to engage in bigoted profiling, for example, when seeking out persons to deport. there's an emergency docket to favor this kind of a decision. So, how does that compare with our civil rights legislation, the policies endorsed in Brown against Board of Education, and a host of decisions and statutes, all of which say we believe in equal justice before the law, but not this bastard in the Oval Office. He doesn't care about any of that stuff. He attacks Dems after Kirk's death because it politically is helpful to him. Another president, maybe either party or an independent, if that ever should happen, would think that their leadership should be to administer calm thinking, immediate changes, particularly when you consider that Trump has been bashing all the institutions of our historic nation and replacing them with suffering and conflict and hate and prejudice, lies. And that's him. That's who he's always been. Now, in recent days, we have a whole bunch of Republicans coming out and saying, oh, you know, you people who are critical, you better shut up. We don't want you to hear the view that we got here because of the repression of Trump. Now, Governor Tim Walz, vice presidential candidate on the Democratic ticket, said the road to authoritarians is littered with people telling you you're overreacting. Shh, don't talk. Let the president set the stage. Let him define it. Let him define his hate against every person who might resemble a Democrat. No profiling, you know, but if they're having a salad on the east side of Manhattan, oh, that must be an elite Democrat. Limousine liberals, they called them when I was young. The move by Trump is an aggressive move that favors none of our institutions, domestically or abroad. Stacey Abrams, she also is weighing into this discussion. She ran valiantly in Georgia for office. She's a marvelous organizer. And it's a shame she's not in the Senate. But she's beginning a national campaign against authoritarianism. She says it settles in. It becomes inevitable. It becomes a force that you have to deal with. So, our president felon is ignoring all of this, while one part of the team says, shut up if you're going to describe how we got here, and it involves anything but social media. That's the enemy. People online saying things, that's how things are going wrong. Not that they're repressing transgender freedoms, gays, throwing people out of the country that look Hispanic when they're citizens, challenging local law enforcement so that Trump can test his ability on martial law to cement the deal as dictator. And that's why it's so appropriate that he should want to help Bolsonaro, who's been convicted of a coup. We can't have somebody else convicted of something that I beat. So our felon wants to help that felon. Trump, it seems to me, beyond any of the items I've hit on, and all of them included, is selling out America. At what point does it become obvious? We split with NATO. We defer to China. We defer to Russia. We defer to anybody in a circumference of dictators that Trump prefers. And you have to wonder if Trump isn't responding to his KGB controller to make us easy pickings. Isolated, citizens denigrated, life more expensive because of tariffs, discrimination in every direction that makes some happy until they realize they're part of that same equation. You know, one of the reasons we do have a foreign policy that's protected us is because South Korea and Japan have become and have been allies, which puts us in a position to resist North Korea and China and other places in that region. And not to support Ukraine and to think that the drones taken down over Poland, that Russia just made a mistake sending them there. How many things does he have to do when we decide he's not stupid in this regard? He's calculating. I can't imagine what his reward is or the source of coercion. But it goes back to something he did in Russia. Maybe it goes back to Epstein or 85 other things. Because so many people lie to cover each other and are coerced to remain silent. It's hard to know, though we can anticipate that we have to act based on what we do know. Trump is selling out America. He's selling out our values, selling out our system, and he shows nothing but resistance to the idea of reformulating his approach to government so we actually can come together and make moot the violence that occurs in a nation in chaos. So that's what I got to say today. I hope you're well, and it really is gorgeous out here. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.